Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I'm talking to Canadian singer-songwriter Barney Bentall. You undoubtedly already know him from hits like Something to Live For, but with his new album RanchWriters, he's doing something different. It's a record of meditative, instrumental guitar songs that he wrote with his longtime friend Jeffrey Kelly from Spirit of the West, and that the two of them recorded at Bentall's Ranch in BC. A couple of weeks back, Bentall zoomed in from backstage at a Calgary gig, and we talked about RanchWriters and his upcoming rock album, his earliest recordings as Brandon Wolfe, what it's like to write instrumental music, and a whole lot of other topics in what was really a pretty wide ranging and freewheeling conversation. Have a look for yourself. Here's how it went. So let's talk about the new album. This is kind of, I think, unlike anything you've really ever done before. Um, I guess the obvious starting place is why make an instrumental guitar record, instead of something that people are expecting from you.
Well, I think we all realized that over the last 18 months or however long it's been, um, you can, it has afforded so many artists time if you are fortunate enough to have the resources to kind of keep yourself going, a lot of creative time because you realize when you stop touring just what a chunk of your life that takes up. And of course, music has evolved to this place where that's where that's where your income is comes from. So you have to play. And when you couldn't, I've made a solo record that's coming out in January. So I did do that, but this whole Ranch Writers came about, a long time friendship of with Jeffrey and myself and our spouses. We're all just best of friends, and we they would come up to their ranch and hang out. And Jeffrey and I just started. We'd always muck around with guitars, and he was working in this open tuning that he got from Jackie Levin. And at first, I would go to that tuning, and we both worked together. And then we just sort of got to this place where I'll go in standard tuning, and Jeffrey would play in open tuning, and then all these gradually one kind of song after another started to take shape. And I mean, Jeffrey would often come with the genesis of these ideas, and then we would collaborate. And it's like I might throw in sort of what I would call the middle eight, or just they the combination of the two guitars, two tunings, I think the friendship, and then and the location where we were, it just these songs started to take form. And then the engineer John Ram, such a gifted engineer from Vancouver, was going up to record Ferris and Jason Romero banjo record, and then they're sort of further north from where I am at the ranch. And he just reached out to me, and I said, "Well, you know what? Why don't you come here for a few days and we'll record this?" And then I called Jeffrey and I said, "Do you want to do this?" And I mean, we had no expectation. I mean, we never thought, for instance, that we'd get a record deal for it. That was beyond any sort of you know
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you phone up your record label and go, I've got a new album, and they say, great. And you go, it's an instrumental guitar record. How does that conversation go from that point on?
Well, I think I get my wonderful manager Gilles Paquin to maybe make that phone call. Although I have great connection with my Jeff Kulick from True North Records. So I don't know who approached first, but I mean everybody thought, well, this is a little bit strange. And I kind of I had this strong sense of faith in the whole project because I know for me it felt so good to write, perform, and play instrumental music, because it's like in this whole time, the time of the pandemic, it's like I almost didn't want to hear words, and I didn't want to be trying to think of what to say. I thought, how beautiful is this to just, it's a kind of record I think you could put on, if you grab a cup of coffee on Sunday morning and you sit on your deck. I mean, and then you can let your mind wander where it wants to go. Nobody's leading you by the nose. And I think that when I first approached, you know management record company. I think there was a little bit, what? You're gonna do what? And I said, well, I don't know. Trust me on this. I think, and let's listen to the music. And so from there, everybody was really receptive. And then the visuals that come with it, I just felt so good about that. There was a synergy to this project because my again, another good friend, Craig Northey from the Odds, and just such a fixture of the Canadian music scene. It was his son who's becoming such a great filmmaker. He just did Colin James video that I saw up on the website there, a promo for it, and he I love using these guys these people when they're just getting started and they have such enthusiasm and such. So I made about 4 videos now with him, and they came up to the ranch, and of course when they get up there, it's like they think they've died and gone to heaven. There's a lot of eye candy, so we filmed the visuals, which I think really helped communicate the music, and they're certainly getting watched a lot. So
As a songwriter, is it a drastically different approach to writing an instrumental, or is it just writing a song and then not writing lyrics for it afterward?
I think it's easier. It's just easier because I think most of us that are songwriters, probably the biggest load of labor is the lyrics. I mean, simply said, if you come up with a verse, but then you've got to come up with three different lyrics to go over that verse, and when you're not, and then you want it to be right. Like I feel I was always there was a quote, a Picasso quote, when they said, "When's the painting done?" And he went, "When it goes out the door." And
Yeah.
and that always struck me, because I would keep working on the lyrics, and I continue to this day, because I'm an artist. I have no interest in just kind of resting on whatever checkered laurels I have. I want to create. That's the only thing that keeps me engaged and interested.
So,
So
mhm.
I write songs, and I would labor on the lyrics, and so this was extremely freeing. We were just having fun doing it.
Yeah, but you still have to come up with song titles, which I would think would be, for some of for some of the instrumentals on this, I can go, okay, I understand why Big Turk is called Big Turk, and I can sort of maybe get a sense of Fred Neil. But there's a whole bunch of them that I go, why is this titled this? Why is that titled that? How do you explain some of those?
Something Big Turk in a world of really wanting to be politically correct and inclusive. I thought, Jeffrey, this isn't the best title. He goes, well, it just happened. There was a Big Turk chocolate bar there, and I came up with the start of this song. And so, and he when I really want to call it that, I go, well, fine, and that's great. Fred Neil, we just felt it was evocative of Fred Neil songs, and
Yeah.
so that explains that. And then the rest really are kind of place names. Bonaparte Plateau is the plateau where the ranch is located. It's part of a watershed there, and then a funny one is Earl's Taxi, because a friend of mine, his dad is 96 now, and back in the day he drove a taxi, and so when somebody went into labor and they were way out in the country, they would have to call Earl to take this person to the hospital to have a baby, and my friend said, Earl's Taxi would be a good name for a song, and we were just coming to that song at the end. I went, well, Jeffrey, I think we should call this Earl's Taxi. And so they instrumentals, you have so much latitude. You know,
Yeah.
they upstairs downstairs though was when back in the day, like Spirit of the West was starting and we were starting, and we would always have Sunday dinner and watch Masterpiece Theater, and my wife Kath and myself lived with her mom, who was just the reason I can have a career. Her mom was absolutely amazing and helped us so much. And she was upstairs, we were downstairs, and we would take turns where we watched it at our place. And that was just a tip of the hat to that part of our friendship and that part of our history. And then, it was very important to us to dedicate this to John Mann, that's just still to this day a heartbreaking thing for us, and certainly for Jeffrey, his longtime collaborator and bandmate. I mean, I produced Spirit of the West first record, in our little hovel studio in Vancouver, and we just, you want his memory to be held and cherished.
Yeah, and undoubtedly it will. Talking about recording at home, that to me always sounds like something that seems like a great idea until you actually do it.
Yeah, I suppose so, but this was, I think it depends on your enthusiasm and attitude of the technical people, and in this case, John Ram is so open, and he and his partner were so glad to get out of Vancouver at that time, and everybody was careful, everybody got tested, and then we could just be musicians in a room, and there's a few houses on the ranch, so there's a place where we'd cook, and then we set it up in the this is a building that we kind of restored from, I guess, from the 20s, and it's square hewn log place, and so none of the surfaces are hard reflection. It just is a beautiful sounding room, and we really put the drums behind a couch and everything. We didn't really use a click track. We had all the drums. You can hear them in the acoustic mics. I don't want to get too technical, but and the engineer was just set up right at the edge of the room recording us, and he was so keen and just had a wonderful attitude that it was a really it was a pleasurable few days. Hello.
In the winter of 65.
Hey Jimmy, how you doing? That's Mr. Jimmy Rankin.
Hey Jimmy.
just giving you the bug here.
Okay. See, I'm just on an interview.
I know. So, yeah, sorry, Bruce.
No, it's so great to see you.
Hi, good to see you.
Okay, see you, Jimmy.
So you could have gone with Exile at 57 Mile Ranch then, given this whole mobile setting, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned, I think, having people listen to this while they're sitting on the deck. And that was kind of what I was wondering, is how you wanted this thing to sort of be consumed, because it's definitely not, something that you're going to necessarily, put on a Friday night before, your big night out or something. It's a very meditative, calming, soothing type of album.
Yeah, no, Friday night when you pour yourself a scotch at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And sit in front of the fire. That's what I think. Any of those times that you just want to be a little more introspective and I guess meditative too. You just
I got to say, it's like a whole new. Do you meditate? Because it could be a whole new side career for you.
I don't technically meditate. Like I don't go through any process other than I've realized over the course of time, there's a creek at the ranch, and if I go, say take a glass of wine out there after day's work, I will sit there and the sound of the creek, and I might have my guitar beside me and play sometimes, but so often I realize I am not thinking of anything, and I think it's something about the creek and the water flowing that makes me just go into that what I guess would be a meditative space.
Yeah, it works for me. Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. You should get the app going here. You got the soundtrack, you shoot the creek, you get it up online, a few soothing words to go with it, and then Bob's your uncle,
Well, my friend Leroy Stagger said, you got to there's an app for meditation. I go, Leroy, I don't want to get an app. I don't want to connect to my phone. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I mean, that's what a lot of people use, but I feel like, especially when I got a creek, or I'm fortunate to live there.
I'm saying make the app, sell the app.
Unfortunately, I'm not good enough businessman. That might be a good idea, but
Uh-huh. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but can you tell me a little bit about this solo album coming out in January?
well, yeah, I'm super excited about that one. I made it with my friend Adrian Dolan on Vancouver Island, and I would just go over there periodically, and I had I might have a couple of tracks. I have Kendall Carson, who I've known for a long time on fiddle, and Matt Kelly from City and Color. They contribute. People, I would send stuff to people to add, but it's a pretty stripped down record. But there's just a lot of writing, and it's going to be called Cosmic Dreamer. And I I'm really happy with it and really excited about it. And at first I thought it would be coming out now, but this kind of made sense to release this record now. And you know, I think anything that happens to Ranch Writers record is gravy to Jeffrey and I. maybe I should have maybe I should have higher expectations, or like, yeah, this is going to be huge. But like I know too much about the business. But I also thought, there's a chance this might strike a chord. There's also a chance that it might lead to some soundtrack work, which I think we'd both be very happy with, because you know musicians and artists all over are trying to wrestling with how they move forward. And I think sadly a lot of artists are going to be knocked out of the business because it just this continues, and it's an uphill. It continues to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, well, and you seem to always be interested too in not repeating yourself. I mean, I'm for the longest time, you've obviously could have had steady work just going out and doing the casino circuit and playing all the hits, but that doesn't seem to really, I can see you shaking your head. That's not what you're interested in, right?
Yeah, I did. It's funny. I know the guys in Trooper, and I've immense amount of respect for them. But I like it. That would be an example of I just that wouldn't be my pathway. And again, when I'm with all due respect, I just
Sure.
I'd probably rather farm. I'd probably rather build furniture. I'd rather do whatever. It's always great to play, but if that's all I was doing, when I go play, Legendary Hearts, we play from time to time, and it's always so moving and special to me when we do, and to just crank it up. And I try and clamber over all this massive noise and get my voice out there, and that feels so good. And I feel I'm in my mid 60s, but I can still do it, and I feel good in that way. But if that's all we did and just went and played that circuit, no, I just wouldn't be interested in that. You got to keep. I feel like, because songwriting is what is pivotal for me. And this was just another example. I mean, Cosmic Dreamer is a different sounding record. It's pretty. There's not a lot of drums, but and what I did, I recorded them myself. I've always known how to record, so I did that part in my house with a brilliant drummer, and sometimes it'd be like Rubbermaid tubs and like whatever so it had sort of a semblance of a drum kit on some songs. But we it's just it's different, and it's kind of fairly stripped down. But I just worked a lot on the songs. So yeah, I'm really excited about that coming out, and we'll see what happens.
And I'm guessing, though, in light of that, I mean, is it hard then sometimes to sort of get yourself back into the mindset and connect with the Barney Bentall who wrote all those songs, decades ago?
When you mean when I go perform in that?
Yeah, I mean, talking about, wanting to make new music, and I've talked to songwriters before who go, I love the hits, but it's kind of, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that guy anymore. So I kind of have to think back to who I was when I wrote that song to reconnect with it and do it justice.
Yeah, I think one I, well, I all a lot the hits that I had I wrote with a good friend of mine, Gary Fraser, and he was by and large the lyric writer in that. And then at a certain point, I just started writing my own songs, and he went, he became a lawyer, and he's a very successful lawyer. So I I I don't have that association with them. So there's certain songs, I guess, and certain hits we had that I probably don't play. If I just there's enough of them that if I do a show and put some new material, some material from my solo career, maybe some deep tracks from the legendary Hearts, and then some of the hits that I still feel very connected to, it makes for a good show.
Yeah.
And I don't have to, and because I've continued to play, I did take a bit of a hiatus 2000 to 2006 while I was ranching, and realized that I had to be there all the time. So that was a bit of a hiatus, but that also, I'm grateful for that time, because when I went back to it, that's when I recorded my record Gift Horse with Jim Cuddy. He was really good. He said, look, you should record, you can come on in, we'll do it. Blue Rodeo will be the band on that one. And I went, that sounds like a great idea. And we did that. And so it enabled me to go in a not a new direction, but just like felt like taking a fork, and it became a vital pathway. So, and then I've been doing that ever since. It probably wasn't the best commercial move. There's no doubt I burned some bridges that way, but that also doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, you got to do what works for you. I mean, but talking about old stuff, I wanted to ask you about this.
That's so great. That was our first EP we did, and I good, bad, or different. I kind of related to a fairly big business family in Vancouver, and back in that time, it was like sort of overshadowing my last name, so I went under a moniker of Brandon Wolfe, and we recorded that in Little Mountain Sound late at night. Little Mountain Sound gave birth to whether it's Bob Rock or Mike Fraser, or those so many iconic records with Aerosmith or AC/DC, all that stuff. But we would sneak in at night and record while engineers learned their craft, and we made that EP.
And none of that stuff is around anymore. I mean, it's all kind of vanished. It should be on Spotify, shouldn't it?
Which, the Brandon Wolfe stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe it should. Like sometimes you think, I know when it first happened, for Apple Music and Spotify, and you go, okay, what records do you want to put up there? Yeah, you can find some of that stuff on YouTube. My kids at various times have liked to mimic what it was like when I was first starting.
Well, I used to have the 12-inch, the EP with the purple cover. I don't know where it's gone. It vanished in a move or something somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was actually a big fan. So
Oh, cool! That's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm old enough, go back that far. Hey, have we talked about everything you wanted to get to, or is there something we should?
They're gonna need me for sound check soon, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I said it's really nice when people, we get. I guess we do a fair number of interviews, and to have somebody know their stuff so well.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, like I said, I've lived here and been writing about Canadian music most of my life, so it's, just comes with the terrain, I guess. But I'm surprised we haven't talked before over the years, but
Yeah.
we'll connect up again with the new album, hopefully.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure, and thank you for helping promote this project that's, I think, so near and dear to our hearts. So.
My pleasure. So go out, break a leg tonight, and don't get the COVID, okay?
Okay. Good. Good call. Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.